Deputy Governor, Dr. Obafemi Hamzat, can you hear me?
I Hello? Can hear you very well. Thank
yes,
you. Good
yes. Well, I was told that you had an urgent state matter to attend to, but we're very excited that you've been able to join us at the end of the day. But we've been having a discussion while awaiting your arrival. I don't know whether you want to share with us what your experience has been with managing the protest, the hashtag #EndSARS protest. And I ask you that question because I read a story yesterday which said, yes, although you met with the protesters who came to Alausa, there was an allegation by one online medium that you tried to compromise the protest leaders, that you took them aside, had a meeting with them, and that when you now came out, you addressed the crowd that had gathered, and that even the protest leaders were now helping the state government to appeal to the crowd. And the insinuation by that online media is that you had compromised the protest leaders. Is that true or false?
I'm hearing that. That's true. It's truly unbelievable. Why people will choose to just, lie outrightly? It's amazing. So I went yesterday to the Barua site of the gas explosion. As I was coming, I saw the movement, and we said, okay, I must stop and address this team. And, so I saw them in front of the House of Assembly. I was trying to enter my office. So we decided to then enter through the back door so I can walk in. And, I just walk straight so I don't even know the leaders. And we addressed them right there and there. So, it's amazing that anybody could say that type of a lie. It's just incredible in our society today. Absolute false. Absolute.
Well, I read the statement that you made when you met with those protesters earlier on the program, at the beginning of the program. But I got the impression that maybe the analogy, there was a metaphorical expression about removing a wall or about keeping a wall there if the wall is decaying. Maybe that then led to the impression that you were really not keen about the subject of the protest.
Well, so one of the reasons why I could not join you was in front of where I am, the same protest just assembled, and I decided to go and address them. We just finished like maybe 5 minutes ago. So I spoke there for about 45 minutes. And so what I was saying really is that there's a reason why SARS was formed. It's supposed to be an anti-robbery squad. Unfortunately, they now decide by their own divination to determine. So the need for it is there. We need to fight crime, we need to fight robbery, we need to fight kidnapping. But in doing that job, a lot of the time, they are now harassing people based that they have a laptop like that, and just decide to said that is absolutely wrong. So that's what I said there.
Well, Dr. Hamzat, let's talk about Lagos State. Before you joined us, I said I would love to ask you, where are we with the themes agenda? What has been your experience and that of your principal, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and what challenges have you faced? I had already defined the themes agenda to our listeners before you joined us.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to join you, and it's nice to see you, even though virtually. In terms of themes, transportation and traffic management is our biggest challenge, in my view. People need to move around from one location to another. So even some of the things we are trying to do will now be a subset of that. So infrastructure, building roads and everything is to lead people to a destination. So it's still part of traffic management and the rest. So we are approaching that very significantly in terms of, you've seen that we've done models that show clearly that roundabouts will not serve us well when we have a 221 kilometer vehicular density compared to about 12 across the country. And therefore, we are taking out a lot of the roundabouts, signalizing them to make sure, and the model shows where it has happened in Allen Avenue, in Maryland, in Egodo, in Lekki one, that the traffic is moving faster based on our model. So we are attacking all those and doing a lot of roads. So the challenge, well, of course, part of the biggest challenge we had this year was COVID-19 that slowed everybody down. The contractors have to leave site. Our revenue dropped by about 31%. So we have those challenges, but hey, it is what it is. We have to keep moving on. And we are approaching a lot of these things. We also know, and COVID-19 has strengthened that technology is the only way we can actually leapfrog our society. The truth is, I always believe that the difference between us and the so-called advanced country is science and technology and the rule of law. And the rule of law in itself must be a subset of technology and science. That's why judges don't need to listen to oral argument by writing again. They listen, and everything, cameras, videos, DNA, and everything is doing prosecutorial work for people, for lawyers and the rest. So the reality is science and technology is key. What did we define? We realized that if we increase the broadband penetration across all public institutions, our schools, our hospitals, and private sector, we will be able to reduce a lot of educational deficiencies. Even before COVID, we started. So the first thing we did was to get with the private sector and start the Metropolitan fiber network of Lagos. That takes us around 3,000 kilometers of fiber. And I'm sure you must have seen across Lagos and your listeners, all this red. So the idea is this: we don't want people damaging the roads. We don't want telcos and everybody. They have the right to do their job. But in doing that job, part of our experience is that we also damage some of the infrastructure that we built. So the idea is there will be 6 cables, 6 ducts in there. One will be primarily for Lagos State, and the other 5 will be for private sector. That 5 is big enough to host 3 fibers. So it can be 15 companies technically that can be in that network. So we can listen how people can do their job. The moment we build that, it's like building a highway. Therefore, you can put different type of cars on it. So when our schools, all our public hospitals, then we can do e-health aggressively, which is one of the things we are planning right now. We've designed the architecture of our e-health, and COVID now reinforced the fact that we need to do that. There are many Nigerian doctors outside in diaspora that wants to assist us. They don't want to come back yet because they have their family, they have their job to do. So we are working on all these things to make sure that we leapfrog our state. So technology, enhancing education. One of the things we found with education is that over the years, we've done a lot in terms of renovating schools, building schools, buying textbooks, fixing chairs and the rest. But we realize that we must also focus on the teachers a lot. And that's why in our primary school, we start the Eco Excel program, which is to train all our teachers, give them handheld that allow them to control the narrative in the classes. So they don't need to sit down and start writing scheme for the day anymore. It's already on their handheld. They can download it, and is unique for all the teachers, so that at least you can have some regularity. All they need to now do is to deliver the content to the students, and this handheld is georeferenced. So one of the biggest challenges we also have in school is absenteeism. So with that, we'll be able to geo-track you to say, oh, a teacher is in a class, and all the students are recorded, and then we can say why is the problem. So maybe we are not addressing a family issue. So that allows us to track our children, their performances, the performance of teachers and the rest. So we are using technology in all these areas and in our hospitals. And so basically, the challenge for us in Lagos is not capacity. The challenge, honestly, is revenue. So as long as we have revenue, there are enough capacity within the system to utilize it for the benefit of Lagosians.
Well, it's good, Dr. Hamzat, that you mentioned technology, because I was going to ask you that part of your agenda and that of your principle is to make Lagos a 21st century environment. And I was going to ask you what kind of role exactly would technology play in all of this? And you already alluded to that. But about schools, there are many communities in Lagos, even with all that you say your administration has been doing about building schools. Some communities feel excluded. Take, for example, a community like Okobaba, in the Makoko area of Lagos that has been featured in many international journals and that has attracted international attention. That part of Lagos looks like it's neglected. What is going to happen with such neglected communities in Lagos?
Well, Lagos State has 1,016 primary schools, public primary schools. But we have 667 junior and senior secondary schools. As you know, that's bigger than what is in Sierra Leone. So the point is that we need to rationalize some of this. So if you go to, for example, some parts of Lagos Island, there are 7 students in a class. 7. I'm repeating that. 7 students in a class. So because we also have enormous amount of private schools in Lagos, and parents have to choose which one makes sense for them. So one of the things that we are doing now is, okay, are we overbuilding in a place? And that is, or are we underbuilding in certain places? So the question is the data that we are accumulating that will assist us? So to answer some of your questions, there are communities, for example, now in Ijede, that we realize, okay, the number of secondary school there is just 1. And people have to work, so we are trying to build another one. In Okwafo, in Badagry, the same experience. So we are gathering enough data to let us make decisions to say, oh, apparently we have a lot of schools, but we don't have some here. And in some areas, we have actually overbuilt. So we are trying to rationalize that because, like we say, what you can't measure, you can't manage. So part of the measurement of our data is to see how do we spread this and how do we even place teachers. So in various areas where you mentioned, part of what is going on there is we are identifying where lands, talking to community. Again, part of the challenge in some areas is acquisition of land. So, but I'm not sure that in Makoko, for example, there are 2 primary schools there. I'm not sure if that is enough. I don't know because I've not seen that data yet. But the ongoing exercise is to see the ones that I know is to see where we have deficiencies. The one that I know of that the data came back is Okwafo, and then of course another one, the 2 that I mentioned, and we are starting there right now to start to build some of the school because the community were helpful. Immediately we actually went there, they donated a piece of land.
Well, Deputy Governor, you said the problem is not capacity in Lagos, but that the challenge is one of revenue. I would like you to explain that further, considering the fact that one government tracking NGO budget, I think, reported recently that the finances of Lagos State will seem to be in deficit and that the state cannot meet running costs. I think there was a slight retraction. There was some retraction of that declaration. But now you say the challenge is revenue. How? What is the state of the state's finances?
So, as you said, budget actually retracted that. Is incorrect. I don't know how they got that data. Absolutely incorrect. So there are different indices around the world to measure the finances of state or sovereigns. So the ratio of revenue to GDP, the ratio of debt to your revenue, and so on and so forth. In all those indices, Lagos is running at below the international benchmark in all the indices. So, but what I'm saying is our ability to collect revenue as a nation and also as a state is weak. So when you think about it, the budget of Lagos State before COVID was 1,019 billion something, so 1.019 trillion naira budget. It was reduced after COVID to about 954 billion. Now, if you think about that, that's less than $3 billion. So what I'm saying is, in a population of about 22 million people, that in itself is small. So that basket needs to increase. And that's my point. Because if you think about it, the city of New York, or just the child welfare department has a budget of $6 billion. The New York police has a budget last year of $5.8 billion US. That's the New York police department. So for a city of Lagos to have a budget of less than $3 billion, so I'm saying that we must up our game, bring in more revenue, build a better economy, make it easier for people to do their businesses so that revenue can come in. And we can really build a state where a lot of us, our children, can really be comfortable. That revenue, that income is just not enough. And that is the truth. Now, our challenge is how do we increase that without killing people that are paying taxes? How do we bring in more people? How do we bring up a new line of businesses so that at least the revenue that accrue to the state will be bigger for us to do what is necessary to do? In terms of, so that's what I meant is we are building various infrastructure. We just awarded the regional road that goes behind VGC because part of the problem is Lekki Expressway is on level 7. What that means is carrying the maximum number of traffic that it can carry. Beyond that is to burst. And that's why the road will keep failing. It doesn't matter what you do. So it's to make sure that you create alternatives so that you can disperse the traffic depending on where people are going. So based on that, we awarded the regional road. Regional road is a lot of money. It has bridges, it has these. So the challenge is, but we need that across various parts of the state. So a lot of people say, oh, 30 billion, but I'm saying that for a city like Lagos with a population that it has, that quantum of revenue is small. Therefore, our effort must be geared towards increasing it so that we can deliver more infrastructure that everybody agrees necessary for the people of Lagos. So that's what I meant.
Hamzat, it's good you brought up the issue of the regional road. People will also like to have information on the fourth mainland bridge that your government has been talking about. We've heard about expression of interest, impact assessment, three preferred bidders who have been shortlisted. But to an average Lagosian who is having issues with moving around in the city, the question is, would your administration be able to deliver this, even with the challenges of revenue? And when your administration talks about transportation, you talk about multimodal, transportation network. We've been hearing a lot about red line, blue line. Nobody has seen any red line. Nobody has seen any blue line. And then what is happening with water transportation?
Thank you very much. Very good question. So it's packed. So I will take the fourth mainland bridge. So remember I said that Lekki Ekpe is on level 7. So what that means is carrying a lot of traffic already. One of the reasons why fourth mainland bridge was not viable economically for any investor, for PPP or whatever, is because remember, you are carrying traffic from Lekki Ekpe, but you are also discharging traffic on Lekki Ekpe. Therefore, it will create a bottleneck on that fourth mainland bridge. And that's why we said in order for fourth mainland bridge to be viable, you must create a parallel road that allows traffic, and then traffic can be dispersed onto the two. And therefore, Lekki Ekpe is moving, the regional road will be moving, and fourth mainland bridge will also be moving. Now that we've done that, we've awarded it, they've seen it, the contractor has been mobilized, everybody. So the investors are also seeing that. So that's why when we put the RFP out, but it's a process. Reuben, you know that, a 2-year-old will never grow beard, except something is fundamentally wrong. So it's a process that must go on before we actually get to construction. And that is, so when we see we must do the environmental impact analysis, it's even a law in Nigeria anyway. When you are doing such a project, you must do all those impact analysis, topographic, bathymetric chart, all those are ongoing, but we have identified about 6 possible concessionaires now. The process is still ongoing and is done by private sector. They are not government officials. It's done by KPMG, it's done by Olaniwun Ajayi, the lawyers, and so everybody, financial, the legal, the technical, rendered, AEC, and so on and so forth. So those are the people putting it together. We've seen good interest. We are hoping, by God's grace, that by middle of next year, by God's grace, we should start the construction of fourth mainland bridge. It's a viable. Now, when we say fourth mainland bridge, well, it's just a 3.8 or 4 kilometer bridge, depending on the span. But it's actually a 32 kilometer road. So it's massive. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. The figures I'm hearing is huge. It's probably bigger than 1 year budget of Lagos. But that's why you need private sector investor to come in. But in order for them to come in, they must see certain things. They must see traffic count. They must see environmental impact analysis. They must see the bathymetric chart. They must see that the process is transparent. And that is what is going on now. So we are good to go. And they must see that it will be viable. And that's why I explained the level of Lekki-Epe right now, the need for a regional road so that you can disperse that traffic and make Fourth Mainland Bridge viable. So the moment they see that, apparently that's what triggered the interest. And I'm really, really very excited about the way it's going. And hopefully very, very soon, we can complete that process and bring people to start constructing. And then you mentioned the blue line and the red line. Reuben, let me say this. You are a man that has traveled around the world, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners. There is no sub-sovereign anywhere in the world. None. Zero. No sub-sovereign anywhere in the world that funds rail on its own. It hasn't happened anywhere. So people talk to me about, the rail in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, and the rail. Well, it's a federal government funded project. So, but Lagos State is funding it only on a balance sheet. And that's why it's taking a lot of time. It's a lot of money. So, if you come in from Ode, so we have two things. The idea is that at least by the time we finish that, investors will see that we have a skin in the game, we are serious about it, and then they can come in. So the blue line is moving as quickly as it can. We think of how to raise the funding so that it's a bit harder rather than these 4 billion, 5 billion monthly, and see those pillars. And then, so we already have a coach that is sitting in Orile now. It's a long coach. So we are going to get another one that makes it so that at least it can start moving. As for the red line, the red line is to leverage on the Lagos-Ibadan or Lagos-Kano, so the segment of Lagos-Ibadan rail line. So we are leveraging on that. So we've had agreement with the Federal Ministry of Transportation. There are about 16 stops, but they will be doing about 7, and we will be doing 9 of them. There is a need for another 9 flyovers. So those are the things that we're putting together. Fortunately, we are pursuing the funding now, and it seems that by God's grace, we might be able to finish red line even faster if this funding comes up, which we are pursuing aggressively, and all signs shows that it's going to happen. So these things take a lot of time because, again, we are a sub-sovereign. You then need to have guarantees of sovereign. And to pursue that, you have to go to the DMO. In Abuja, you have to go to the Ministry of Finance. So it's a process. And I'm sure you are familiar with this. So we are negotiating that process. And very soon, by God's grace, Lagosians will see this. And then in terms of water transportation, you will notice that there's a company that's called LAC Ferry, Lagos State Ferry Services. It's our own arm. So we want to put in our own as a government. So one of the things we notice is that when traffic leaves, say, Ikorodu, Ekpakodo, or Badore, or Liverpool come to Marina, it's usually a one-way traffic in the morning. But those ferries have to go back almost empty in order to carry people. So that's why the cost is a bit higher. So one of the things we did was, okay, why don't we buy bigger ferries? Bigger ferries, so that 35, 40, whatever. So we bought, I think, 6. Yeah, I think 6. I seem to be, I'm not sure if it is 5, but we bought 6, I think. We bought 6 recently to inject it into and therefore private sectors are now telling, and interestingly, they were built in Nigeria because they are partners. So we insisted that we must build them. You send your technical people to come and build it in Nigeria. You build the engine, but at least the materials can be procured. And we are thankful to God that in Lagos, they built it. It's been running now for months and is doing well. And then we can engage the private sector to see. As you know, subsidy doesn't seem to be the right thing for us to do in this part of the world. And therefore, how do we make sure that those running those ferries make enough money without charging our people too high? So it's a continuous negotiation that we are doing, but we are injecting ourselves into the ferry and buying good standard ferries for our people to use. But ultimately, it's the private sector that we want to drive. But if they see that we have a skin in the game, it encourages them to go into that business. There are some there now, but it's for us to assist them to raise their capacity increase the ability for them to access funds from banks and the rest. And those are some of the things we are also engaging with CBN along with this private sector so that they can inject money into the system and therefore they can buy more boats without, handing over their mother, their grandmother, their houses, and so on and so forth. So those are the conversation that is ongoing, and I'm sure very soon we'll be able to resolve some of these issues.
Deputy Governor, 2 questions sent to me by listeners. One person is asking, please ask the Honorable Deputy Governor, why is it that the Ishawu Road, Agric Ikorodu, has been abandoned? What is the plan for it? And still on roads, someone is asking, when will the Sanwo-Olu government complete the Penn Cinema flyover? The non-completion has caused traffic chaos in that axis. So the Agric Ikorodu Road and the Penn Cinema flyover.
Well, he said non-completion. It's an ongoing project that we are hopeful will be completed in November. So they seal it off because when they are launching slabs, some of those slabs are very long. When you stand them vertically, it's about 13 stories. So they must shut down that environment, and it's not something you can do in the middle of the night because they must be able to see everything well. So it's because they are getting to the end. So the parapet wall has been built, the bridge is almost done. So by November, everything will be done. And they are also doing in the process of constructing that road, they have damaged a lot of the adjoining roads because of the materials, heavy things that they're bringing, and so on and so forth. So right now, before we open it up, they are now building all those adjoining roads so that by the time we open all the approach roads, so it's an ongoing project. So to say that the abandonment is not abandoned, it's an ongoing. iTech is the company, they are there every day. I was there 2 weeks ago. I just drive past. I drove on it to make sure that it's done. We spoke to people. So it's ongoing. But hopefully by November, we thought initially that by July we'll commission it, but because of COVID, they have to leave. And then by November, by God's grace, we are hoping that we'll commission that. So that will be handed over before the end of this year. So, but like I said, it's not just the bridge or the flyover that, the adjoining road, this has to stop. And we had a meeting with DPR and NNPC to say, okay, do they even have a license? What we are hearing is that it's possible they don't have, but we'll wait for DPR to give us that information. So how are they getting the gas from? Where are they getting it from? All those things. But the bottom line is such very explosive, things should not be, I agree fully. And going forward, we will work aggressively because we cannot just allow lives to just be lost. It's just wrong. It's just sad, very, very sad. And again, I really, really sympathize with people who have lost their lives and just doing the right thing, going to work and come, and then you just, it's really very sad, really very sad.
Deputy Governor, somebody just sent a message now. He says he would like the state government to remove the roundabout in Costain and in Shita, and also engage the military authorities to reposition the security checkpoints around that part of Lagos.
So, I said that we are removing roundabouts, but it's not in everywhere. So what determines that is we do a model and see that, okay, if we remove it, so I don't know about Costain yet. Okay, so, and again, we are also building the bridge in Costain to accommodate the rail that will go underneath. The old one doesn't have enough clearance. So the old one was the Lagos-Ibadan rail that I mentioned before. So it doesn't have enough clearance. That's why that bridge was demolished. We are building that now. So it's impossible to now, aggravate the traffic situation by now working on the roundabout at the same time. We've also, the Eco Bridge at Alaka, we've also shut that down because of renovation. So we try to be careful to see how we manage the civil work so that it doesn't, strangulate our people in terms of traffic. So that's why we chose the areas where we chose now. When we finish those areas, when the Alaka Bridge is opened up, when this other bridge at Costain is also opened up, traffic flows, then we can look at the roundabout. So it must be sequential. We can't just do everything at a single time. We will strangulate the city. And therefore, it's, traffic will just lock and nobody will be able to move. And so it must be in stages. When the time is right, then we will move in and do the costain one and clean it up.
Well, Dr. Hamzat, I will just ask a few general questions and then we'll throw it open to our listeners who would like to also interact with you. First, I read a story about a certain Honorable Iyekwe, one Dr. Abdul-Latif, who says it's now the turn of the Aworis to be governor in Lagos State, and he has launched a campaign, or what he calls a movement. And this Dr. Abdul-Latif had been Commissioner for House Affairs. He's been part of the governance process in Lagos. And I
learned that he has changed his mind and said that he's joining the party again because. So honestly, I don't think there's a disunity. But you know, when you have a family, you always have issues. You always have issues. People want things to go this way. Some people want this to go this way. But really, honestly, we are focusing on governance. What can we do to impress Lagosians? And I think that should be our focus really right now. I think it would be irresponsible of us to be talking about campaigning in 2020 when people elected us in 2019. So we must focus on governance, and see what the best we can do for the people of Lagos State. And at the right time when we want to campaign, constitutionally we all have our rights, and therefore, we will do that, and the people of the state will make that decision. It's always left for the citizens to make that decision, not for we politicians.
I also like to have your thoughts on another subject, which is another campaign that is growing, gaining momentum in Lagos State, which is Lagos for Lagosians. Some political stakeholders are saying there are too many people from outside Lagos State who are occupying important positions within the system, and that they would like a situation whereby outsiders leave Lagos for Lagosians. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Reuben, I don't know. I'm sure you are not from Lagos like that. But the truth is, you live your life in Lagos. You achieved a lot in Lagos. You pay your taxes in Lagos. So, I will leave that for citizens to make that their determination. To say that, every Nigerian has the right to live anywhere in this country. Every Nigerian. And, so we can't say that they should leave. We can't. So it's wrong constitutional. So I've heard it, I've seen it, but for me, again, in a democracy, we all have freedom of speech, and we all have the right to express our opinions. But for me, I think those are not the real issues. The issue, like I said, is how do we engage everybody that comes to Lagos to be productive, to be a great Nigerian, to be a great Lagosian, and contribute to the development of this state so that we can build a future for generations yet unborn, to make Lagos a shining example in this country. And in that sphere, there has been many Nigerians, Lagosians of course, and people that have contributed in Lagos State. Obafemi lived in Ibadan, contributed, it's not from Ibadan. That's the bottom line. So it's an interesting discussion, but again, at the right time, we will all engage each other to discuss it. But for me, our own focus is to deliver the goods for everybody that has chosen to take Lagos as their home and it's a place where they want to work. To make it easy for them to live, to make it easy for them to play, to make it easy and convenient for them to live and work. So that's our own goal and that's our target. And as we build a better Lagos, the reality is that we must expect more people to come. That's the reality. The world population is telling us that Lagos in 2050 will be about 35-40 million. Well, those people are coming from wherever. And there are Lagosians in outside Nigeria, Lagos that are coming home. There are Lagosians in Kano that are coming home. So the reality is, for us as a people, how do we plan that to make sure that this Lagos continue to accommodate people that can live peacefully, that can enjoy their life? So whoever is saying Lagos for I think they will put their argument out there and Nigerians will make that decision.
If you are just joining us or you are listening to us, our guest is the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Dr. Obafemi Hamzat, and we've been discussing issues of both national and subnational interest. Well, I see some callers on the line. Hello? Hello? Someone is on the line? Hello? Yes, good afternoon. Please keep your comment or question short. Our guest, as you already know, is Dr. Obafemi Hamzat, the Honorable Deputy Governor of Lagos State.
Thank you very much. My Deputy Governor, before you came in, someone on the line was talking about the situation in Lagos State and that the expectation is not in tandem with the financial resources, to which I want you to address, sir, as the one being the one, actually that people want to hear from. But from my own vague point, I just want to chip in a word that people should acquaint themselves with a lot of information because things are going on in Lagos. Enormous things, unimaginable things. And greater strides are being made in Lagos than ever before. And there are some, people should know that there's a dichotomy between federal government rules and, what the state can do, so that they don't find Lagos State being criticized on federal government policies. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think the caller is right. There's a lot that's going on in terms of health. One of the things that we've seen, you remember, we built from the time of Governor Fashola, and so many people like that has gone now to do a lot of things in this country. So I think Lagos will be proud and should be proud of that. We want to keep producing human resources that can serve this nation, or can start this world anytime, any day. And I think that is the pillar that Lagos should stand on, not this myopic principle.
Just one more caller before we begin to wrap up the program for today. Hello, thank you for joining us on City Talks. Hello? Hello? Yes, good afternoon.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. Please make it brief. We have just about 4 minutes to go.
Dr. Abati and the Honorable Deputy Governor of Lagos State. My name is Shomi Uranta. Two things, please. One, Allen Junction is a great thing the government have done, but I see a small problem with the remodeling of that Allen Junction. The median, where people come from Allen back that end, ought not to get at the point where it is. It's supposed to come back a little bit, and that same thing ought to be done at Aromire, at the one coming from his secretariat and from Awolowo Way, Ikeja under bridge. Then finally, on Okwebi, the gutter they are trying to do, the drain. I'm surprised that the city, Lagos, a mega city, will be giving a contract to people who will be digging like we are in the village. It's supposed to be prefabricated because of traffic. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello,
well, thank you, Reuben, but honestly, I couldn't hear a lot of things that he said. I heard the Allen Junction, that he said there's a problem there with the drain.
The median.
Sure.
He said
with the median.
Yes, but that he thinks that it's a good thing that has been done, but that you need to take a second look at it.
Well, okay, we'll take a second look at it, but we must understand that. So when it says with the median, so remember, we have a restricted right of way. There are buildings. These are build-up areas. And you want to minimize the disruption to buildings and the rest. So we're also limited. So it's not like we have a virgin land and we can do everything that we think is desirable. So that's part of the first challenge. When you are rebuilding in a built-up area, there are certain things that you must forgo because you want to limit your disruption, building, demolishing of fences, and so on and so on. What we have done there is to expand the road, signalizing, and traffic has moved forward better. But like he said, we will look at it again and see, of course, if there can be any other improvement. But we look at different things, we'll put it in the model, and we are guided by the data and the results. So that's what we did there. I think he said the same thing should happen in Aromere and Ikeja under bridge. I can say that we've planned Ikeja under bridge, but again, like I said, you have to take it. Nobody can swallow an elephant once. So you have to take it in bits and pieces. As for Aromere, I'm not sure that is part of the plan now. I don't know. Maybe the Ministry of Transportation can tell us. I'm not sure about that. But I know that Ikeja under bridge is one of them. But we cannot do it now. It's when we finish some other works that we can go ahead and do that so that we don't disrupt the traffic very much. So I thank him very much for those questions.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Dr. Obafemi Hamzat, for taking time out to join us. Thank you very much indeed. It's still City Talks.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Dr. Obafemi Hamzat, and many thanks also to our callers and those who reached out to us on Twitter and Instagram. Remember, the conversation does not end here. You can reach out to me on my social media account at Abati1990, both on Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to tune in same time next week for another exciting edition of City Talks. My name is Reuben Abati. City Talks was produced by Adedoja Allen, Abiodun Odunton, Ayodamola Oludara, Oluwaseun Adetitun, and Olanrewaju Elbama Odnipede Jr. Have a great weekend. We'll come your way again, same time next week.